listening to episode 320 of the Major Issues Podcast, and on this episode, we tackle 8 Billion Genies, the 8-issue epic from Charles Soule with art by Ryan Browne. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now! Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
It is I, Alex, aka B. Roke, but I still got my wish.
It's important to hold on to your wish. I wished. Could you imagine 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you thought I would have, or did you think we would have this community, this group, this ability to talk about the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media? Like, it's so cool that we're able to have that and not have to waste an actual genie's wish to get so. But if Alex is on the show, you know we're here to talk about some primo content, possibly something underneath or under some of you guys' radar. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about. This is a book that you had recommended some time ago. It's on everyone's list for some of the best comics to come out last year. And I think it's a book that's going to not only grow with popularity, like this is the Babe Ruth rookie card right here, in my opinion. I think this is going to be a show. I think this is going to be a film. I can see this being everything under the sun. But before it becomes any of that, we are here to talk about it in its original form, 8 Billion Genies. So, B. Rogue, how did you stumble upon such a book? Because we talk about this constantly, me and you, this idea that when people think of comics, they think of what comic book readers affectionately call cape shit. Which is the heroes that we know, the Superman, the Batman, etc. and so forth. And while all those stories are great, some independent or creator-owned stories have been coming out that have been equally as great, if not even better, because of their ability to end. My thing is, when I want to get back into comics or a particular character, it's easy for me because I'm familiar with Batman. So if I'm step off for Batman for 2 years, there's still an entry point because I know who Batman is. With books like this, are you judging by the cover? Are you judging by the creative team? Are you judging by the premise? How do you end up with 8 Billion Genies in your lap, and how do you continue or choose to continue the story?
For me, when I'm looking for obscure content, I'm definitely following certain creators. And a guy like Charles Soule, this guy has just been at that level for like a good decade now. Yeah. You know, he's done quite a bit of Marvel work. He had a great run on Daredevil a couple of years ago.
We covered his Darth Vader on the Major Issues Podcast.
He had a great run on Darth Vader. I absolutely love that run that he had on Darth Vader. And he's also done a lot of other critically acclaimed things like Letter 44. I even enjoyed, he did The Death of Wolverine, which I enjoyed. He's done quite a bit of other things that came. Undiscovered Country, which he's doing right now with Scott Snyder. That's a lot of fun. And so when this book was announced, right on the heels of a book I still haven't read of his, Cursed Words, which he did with the same exact artist, Ryan Browne, and that book,
I thought that was similar because those ads are in the end of each issue of this story, and I'm like, that looks equally as interesting because it looks like the story that I'm reading now.
Yeah, and that story got a lot of attention, but I kind of gave it the attention too late, and then it just never followed through with it. But when that was kind of ending or in the middle of its run, they announced 8 Billion Genies. So I was like, okay, the same team behind this critically acclaimed book is now coming out with this 8 Billion Genies. What is this about? And then I read the premise and was like, wait a minute, that is wild. This idea that one day everybody on the planet wakes up and now has a genie that will give them one wish. And you kind of hear real quick and maybe think, that sounds stupid. But then you have to start thinking, like, how wild is that? What will people do with this ability? if you could now suddenly have that one thing you've always wanted in this wish.
Yeah.
And I said, what does it hurt to pick up a first issue just to get a taste? And I picked up that first issue, and even before the first issue came out, it was getting lots of buzz. And I think it was like you already mentioned, it's been optioned for a TV series.
Oh, wow.
No traction has gone with that. I mean, lots of things get optioned for series or movies, and nothing ever happens. So this could be one of those where it's like, oh yeah, it gets optioned, but nothing happens. But it doesn't happen for everything. So when that does happen, it at least makes you go, I should probably pay some attention to this. Because if it's that good that they're already talking about movies and TV shows before it's even hit the stands, what's the deal with this? And you read that first issue, and I don't know many people who didn't read that first issue and didn't go, I got to finish this. It's a great series.
100%. And what I love about it is, like you said, it's a simple premise. Like, you could probably write it down in 1 or 2 sentences, but the density and the complexity of the premise just sends you down a rabbit hole of weird logic and stuff. And what I also love is that they choose to answer what they want to answer, and the things that they don't want to answer, they just don't. And it doesn't matter, because it's the universe, as shown in this book. So I like that they got to be creative. There's a lot of fun in here. There's a lot of emotion in here. There's a lot of pathos where you ask yourself what you would do in a certain situation. The idea of having a wish and what that means and why you would want one. Ultimately, to be excited to make a wish or be able to have a wish is to admit that you don't have something you want, right? And that's a big, right. That in general is a huge revelation that some of these characters find out, and we get to kind of see all that kind of stuff unfold. But yeah, the idea of 8 billion genies falling out of the sky, just love exploring the possibilities of all the crazy things that people can dream up. We see vampires in this. I think we see some Transformers at one point. There's definitely a weird Mario parody. And I bet you in there somewhere is a George that has 100% energy and focus all the time. Well, as a matter of fact, there's a George right here that has 100% of his focus, and it's thanks to a little project called Magic Mind. You see, I don't need a genie to have the cognitive clarity that I now have since I've been taking Magic Mind. As I've said many times, to cover everything that we cover here, take some energy. And I used to be a huge coffee drinker, dates back to my days in the army, and they didn't always have milk with that stuff. So you end up tasting some of that black sludge to get all of the energy to keep myself focused and stay on task. Only thing was, well, not the only thing, headaches, jitteriness. You have to add a lot of sugar to make that stuff taste good. None of that stuff is good for you. And I started to think that I kind of had to deal with those side effects, because how else am I going to get this energy? How am I going to stay focused? How am I going to complete all the tasks that I needed? And I realized that ever since trying Magic Mind, I've seen the benefits of cutting down on my coffee intake. Now, instead of resorting to multiple cups of coffee to stay energized, I just take a small shot each morning alongside one small cup, and I'm ready for the rest of the day. Thanks to the mood-boosting adaptogens, I feel significantly better in the mornings, and their relaxing effects contribute to my overall happiness throughout the day. That's another problem, right? I sit there and I try my best to stay awake and give myself all this caffeine and energy, and then I get home and I want to relax, and my foot is restless. And I'm trying to put myself to sleep. Then I finally lull myself to sleep. By the time that happens, my alarms are ringing. With Magic Mind, I'm able to sleep calmly. I don't wake up in the middle of the night. And then when I wake up, it feels like someone's just gently tapping me on the shoulder and reminding me that the sun's outside. That's way better. That's way better than the way things were going before. Ingredients like ashwagandha and lion's mane cordyceps really help regulate my stress levels, and I find, like I said, that I'm sleeping better, which leads me to starting each day at 100%. If you got a lot on your plate, like I do, and need a daily shot of productivity to reach your goals, you got to check them out at magicmind.com/major issues. MagicMind.com/major issues will give you a 56% off your Magic Mind subscription, and you can get 20% on a one-time purchase with our code major issues. They say greatness gravitates around each other. The people over at Magic Mind found the people over here at ComicBookClique, and we have now spread this message over to all our beautiful listeners. You can go ahead and get 56% off your Magic Mind subscription by going to magicmind.com/major issues. And again, 20% off using the 20% off a one-time purchase by using my code major issues. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Join the thousands that are already seeing the benefits of Magic Mind and snag that sweet deal. Get some now because, as you know, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. But so is a wish in a lot of ways.
You know? I'm happy I don't got to waste my wish on some energy. Just got to get some of this Magic Mind. Let's go. This
Magic Mind. I mean, listen. Some of the things I saw on that ingredient list, I had to look up. I'm checking. First of all, cordyceps. I was like, Last of Us. What's going on here? Mushrooms. Boom, boom, boom. This is the good kind, though. If these could walk and talk, they would beat up the Last of Us zombies. It'd all be over in about 5 minutes.
Good to hear.
Buckle in, guys. We are going full spoilers for 8 Billion Genies. We're going issue by issue with a recap. And I want to say, for those who have listened to this far and have not read this book, this recap will not serve it justice. I would argue not even a first read will serve this justice. There are several things I found out or, picked up upon my second read once I knew I had to look for them. There's so much art. There's so much dialogue. These splash pages and just the details in the background. Put it this way. There's very few panels without a genie, and the genie's always doing something. It's always got some sort of facial expression or doing some extracurricular activity in the background. This is a book in motion. So I did my best to recap each issue, but there might be things that I'm missing. If you see anything, Alex, go ahead and shout it out. But know that we didn't mean to do it in disrespect. We did it in a truncated form so that the real bigger topics and themes we can actually sit down and kind of discuss. So are you ready?
Let's go. Let's do this.
Well,
I wish.
If I had one wish. So our story begins at the Lampwick Bar and Grill in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. Mr. Williams, the barkeep, talks to his patrons, which includes a 12-year-old named Robbie Green and his passed-out father, Ed. The Bada Bangs, 3 bandmates named Brian, Daisy, and Alex, who are there for a gig, and a non-English-speaking Chinese couple, the Zhangs, who go by Wang and Li Feng, who enter the Lampwick, mistaking it for another bar. Li Feng is pregnant, and Wang seems distraught that they are in the wrong place, but won't say why. Alex asks Daisy for help with the van as an excuse to tell her how he really feels. Just as he does, and again, this is only something you pick up on the second read, just as he does, the 8 billion person has just been born in France, triggering 8 billion genies to arrive simultaneously, each with one wish for their assigned person. They warn that you should be careful with your wishes, as they have unforeseen consequences. So this is basically, they set the stage for the normal characters, right? In a normal setting, just a couple band people. I love this little bottle episode kind of thing, right? Because this, like I said, this would work perfect for a show because it's just a bunch of people at the bar, all ages, all backgrounds. What do you think of this introduction to the series?
No, this was a great setup. Who doesn't have memories of being in a bar, right? So to me, that immediate venue leads you to for at least for me to be like, of course, this is where something like this is going to start, right? You go into a bar, everybody has their own separate dreams immediately set up in this. So it's setting up that whole idea of, like we said, dreams, wishes, your desires. You got this band that's like, I want to perform it. We want to perform at this famous bar. This is where our dreams going to kick off. This one girl, she has dreams of falling in love with her bandmate.
I mean,
This
one of
couple.
the guy wants her too. Well, the other guy wants her. Alex
Oh yeah,
wants
yeah, yeah,
Daisy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, right. There's all this stuff that this Chinese couple shows up and they're trying to accomplish some kind of goal, but there's also a lot of secrecy with that because you're like, oh, what's the deal with these people? You know,
Right.
there's much like Piano Man, the classic Piano Man song. You got this drunken guy at the bar, and
Yeah.
his son is just playing in the bar. Who hasn't gone to the bar and seen that at least one time? Where it's like, oh, there's a drunk dad and a son playing darts. That's
Right.
nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of thrown into this world immediately, and I like the fact that they don't really delay the premise. You know, it's not something that, well, issue 3, we're finally going to see the genies. You get the genies like what, the 4th or 5th page in
Yeah.
the story, and you're like, okay, here we go. So yeah,
And
no,
what
this was great. I love being thrusted into this.
and what the genies say is basically the premise of this book. Like if you've read the premise and then you go in, they don't like clarify or go into further detail. They're just like, yeah, there's one for everyone. You get one, you get one, you get one, you get one wish. So what's it gonna be? So Mr. Williams, without skipping a beat, immediately wishes that no wish made outside the bar can affect anyone or anything inside of it. Did that trigger anything for you?
When he did that, it immediately made me think, this dude knows something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like it's is it just that he's wise? You know, because I mean he plays that classic bartender that we all have had discussions of. Oh, you know, my bartender Mike always knew how to take care of me, always knew what I wanted, always, you know, that classic way of describing a bartender. This guy is. You could tell he's just prepared, he's wise, he's older. And so that the moment the genies show up, he can kind of see through the situation and makes like the perfect wish to maintain. Okay, I got to keep my bar safe. I want to keep my paying patron safe because I know this is going to go poorly.
Right.
But he makes that perfect wish that makes you go, all right, it's one thing to be prepared. It's another thing to just be have this massive amount of precognition. So
Yeah,
it kind of leads like, who is this guy?
I think what also sets off a lot of alarm bells is that when the genies show up, almost everyone exclaims like, "Oh, what the hell? What's this? Oh my god!" And he says nothing until he makes his wish. Like that's the first thing he says once the genies pop up. It's not a how do I make a wish? What do you understand? Like how do I word it? Who do I talk to? Or any of that kind of stuff. He knows, or he seemingly knows right away what to do and how to do it. And with that, the stage is set as we watch what unfolds for the first few seconds. It's just the first couple of seconds, and the entire earth changes. Daisy, unaware of Mr. Williams' wish, wishes that Brian, her other bandmate, would have romantic feelings for her. Which I found to be a very rude gesture in front of Alex, who had literally just poured his heart out. Like, she could have been like, oh, anything I want? Okay. And then walk. He didn't say it was on a time limit. Like, he was like, anything you want. Oh, anything I want? I want that other guy to be romantically in love with me. In front of the guy who just told you that he was digging you. Now, again, it's not really, I don't think it's anyone's real responsibility to protect anyone's feelings. But in this instance, I feel like it would have just been as easy as walking into the bar. And ironically, she probably would have gotten you can't make wishes in the bar. Okay, yeah. So then she could have just bagged him in the bar. Not that would have been his style, but she totally could have. Telling you, Daisy, that was your fault.
No, yes. Oh, she had to just show a little patience, show a little empathy,
restraint,
for your bandmate.
Right? Is that the word?
That's it. But it shows you the
impulse. Yeah.
Right. And you get lots of impulse wishes.
Yeah, it shows you what happens with impulse wishes by giving us a small example. So you can imagine what's happening in the entire world if everyone in this instance gets this moment. So she makes that. Dejected, he goes back to the bar and he's like, because he almost makes a wish out of like a crime of passion, kind of. He's like, you know what? you know what, forget it. And he goes into the bar. He's like, let me get a drink. And so he's sitting there and he's getting his drink. He's getting his drink on. And Daisy cozies up to Brian, who has no idea what she's doing. And yeah, she's like, how do you feel about us? He's like, I don't feel anything about us. Sorry if I gave you mixed signals. And it's explained to her that she basically wasted a wish. A loud banging gets all the barflies' attention, so they open the door to see what the world has become, and it's equally awe-inspiring and terrifying as castles, flying people, dinosaurs, robots, aliens all populate the sky. Everything's on fire or covered in candy or,
Yep.
or turned into a living flower or something. We stop with some people, like you see a woman who wishes for money. We see someone wish for the ability to teleport. An elderly person wishes to be young, the weak to be strong, the antisocial to be popular. So Mr. Williams locks the bar door and reminds them that they are in the safest place they can be in the world right now. Again,
Yeah, like he knows
cinematic.
what's going to pop off immediately, and that immediately sets up the kind of the mechanism for this story is that every issue is going to cover an 8 amount of time. So the first issue is really covering the first literally 8 seconds of these wishes, and much like Daisy, you can see there are a lot of people who, the moment they got this opportunity for this wish, they've had something on the tip of their tongue their
Right.
entire lives and just said it. They were like, "What? I got a wish? I want to be a kaiju. I
Right.
want to fly. I want the moon to be alive." All these obscene things. So you get this first 8 seconds, and then you find out later on, you pretty much find out the paces. Every issue is going to cover 8 minutes. 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 months, 8 years, and so on. So you're gonna see how everything unfolds, but those first 8 seconds are just wild. And it's sad because I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't bat an eye at it because I could totally see it. I could totally
100%. What I think is interesting is Mr. Williams' urgency when it comes to safety. Because when you think of this premise, you think of whimsical, right? You think of like magic. But like, of course, there would be like dangerous wishes or wishes that cause danger to other people. Opening this door, you find this out. But also, like you said, we get 3 pieces of information at the end of every one of these stories, or sometimes multiple times in a single issue. We get the amount of time that's passed. We get the genie and human population, and we get a picture of the Earth as it currently looks in the universe. That constantly changes. I didn't keep up with that, but one of the things that I find interesting is that the numbers of humans are going down and have gone down in these 8 seconds alone. When you see that, when you see Williams's urgency, when you see the things that are outside, you realize how crazy this is going to get, and what is the end goal to all this, if not those numbers continuing to go down. That's the only thing I thought. It was like,
it gets pretty heinous. Like, okay, is this how do you say? I immediately thought it was just aliens. Like, okay, these are just aliens that recognize the human race as a dangerous species, and what's the easiest way to get out? Right. Like, okay, screw invasion, screw like the idea that we have to go in there and kill these people and get into a war where we're going to lose bodies. We're just going to let them kill themselves because look at the danger they are to themselves. We can't have this going out into the universe. So here you go. Here's a gift. Here's a Trojan horse. Here you go. Enjoy. That's what I immediately thought about it. I thought it was like some sort of backdoor alien invasion.
To me, it felt population control-y, but I didn't know to what extent, because I also wasn't sure how much, like, there's no reason why we couldn't do the entire story in the Lampwick. If they were to do it that way, then they really don't. Oh, it's like everyone is in there with a gun, It's like, but with them doing it that way, they would have never needed to explain anything. But I like this next issue because we start to get a lot of answers that kind of like make sense, and you kind of go, oh, okay, well, they start to build out the rules, and they start to build out the logic behind some of this stuff. I think it's really interesting. So the first 8 hours have passed, and the Earth is an ice cream cone. In Argentina, a father uses his wish to ensure his kids can't make their wishes without his approval after one of them uses it irresponsibly. I thought this was a completely throwaway scene. And the second time I read it, I'm like, why is this? And then I got to it and I was like, okay, yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
No, I agree with you. It was just, I read this series month to month, and it wasn't until we had decided to put this on the podcast that I was like, oh, now it's time for me to reread it. And in rereading it, I same thing. I was like, wow, there's so many things that this book set up early on.
Yeah.
That just went way over my head. That when it does show up later on, you forget that it was already introduced earlier.
Yeah.
And here we are. So in seeing how it builds up and how. Because in the book it does start to tell us like, oh, you got the impulsive people, you got the strategists, you got the planners, and this family right here, they're the strategist planners. So it was cool to see it.
And nothing, I didn't bump into anything in this. Like there was nothing in this. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like I'm just like, this is the world that they've set up. They've created their rules. Everything's seeming to work out by their rules. It goes to show what can happen when you kind of have that creative space. You build almost a theme park around it and get to play inside. And I feel like some of these genies are watching this like it's some sort of sick reality show, like you were saying, like just watching humanity. Oh,
for sure. That's what I'm saying. It kind of reminded me of. Do you remember that South Park episode where you find out that Earth is a reality show?
Yes. Which is like the Truman
Show.
Remember
that with right, where that's what it immediately reminded me of. Like, yo, these aliens, maybe, this is just entertainment for them. This is just, look, we have this technology, we can beam to a planet, and we get to just sit back and eat some popcorn and watch them kill themselves because they have these wishes. It's insane. It's insane.
I think now that you say that, I think it's because they're incredibly cute, they're incredibly kind and polite, and they seem to like making wishes, but from what we've already been shown in here, wishes are dangerous. So you're like, why would these little cute, polite things like doing this unless they enjoy whatever comes out of this, but question mark on that. So we go back to 8 minutes after G-Day. That's what they're calling the event when the genies landed, where Dave Masters is using his Carosaurus to demolish things near the Lampwick bar. Ed starts to get curious as to why Williams knew what wish to make, but Williams shrugs it off as intuition given human nature, which is as an older gentleman, that's a pretty good excuse. It's like, I just know how humans are going to be.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like that kind of made me go, yeah, he's an older guy. Maybe he's a war veteran. He's seen the horrors of what people are capable of doing, because he just nailed it on the head. And you see Carosaurus, right?
Just out there with his Carosaurus.
Just some dumb bastard who was like, "Ooh, I like going to what is that called? Monster Jam," and I've always wanted to have one of those things. So that's my wish. Like, bro, you have a wish to do anything, and this is the most creative you could be. Like, oh my god,
of all things,
you could totally see it. But you could totally see it.
That's another thing. Like these genies kind of act like Janet from The Good Place, where if you call a genie just pop up and you can just ask it a question and they'll just like, they're like, oh, what is that? And they're like, oh yeah, that's Dave, whatever his face is. He made a Carosaurus because he likes cars and that's what he's doing. And so they're constantly like, they'll politely explain other people's wishes to you if you're curious or whatever.
And they'll even explain if people are still around. Like, oh, is so-and-so still alive? Nope.
No. Yeah, so I guess they're just like these weird omnipotent species, and they're all just drawn like if they encompass the whole galaxy, which is a really cool thing. They look like they might be different genders as well, which is pretty interesting. But Yeah, so yeah, he shows Brian that there's a virtual bomb shelter downstairs with food, medical supplies, and water in case they're held there for longer. So you kind of just come to the conclusion he's like a doomsday prepper, and that's why he knew. That's why he's super,
Mhm.
paranoid. We used to joke if there are people waiting for the apocalypse because they've already planned for it, and if it doesn't
Mhm.
come, they'll be disappointed, kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
right.
it's
Like,
a
man,
yeah. This is this
built a bunker for nothing.
this is what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about this guy. I'm like, okay, he's in it for the long haul. Uh, Alex takes a moment to kick Daisy while she's down about wasting her wish on Brian, which I thought was kind of funny. But again, this all just happened. This first 9 minutes, yeah, first 9 minutes. Um, his genie like gives him a look and shit. The genies explain that they're there for a reason, but they can't tell them unless they wish for it, which I thought was cute. They
Right.
explain
And then
like
they immediately compliment the kid. They're like, the kid's smart for not using his wish to find out what we're doing. Good smart
yeah,
kid.
yeah. They explain that they keep track of every single wish made and how some cancel out if they are in direct opposition. Like if somebody wishes for world peace, but then somebody wishes for a zombie apocalypse, they just cancel each other out. They don't seem to take joy in the craziness, but they do express a desire to grant as many wishes as possible. They see it as an art form, and they even choose to ignore wishes that affect the whole planet, as those wishes would impede on the wishes of others.
Yeah,
The crazy,
I like you said, I like how they set up all these rules because it does make sense. If
yeah,
you have, like you said, like, if one person in Australia is like, oh, I wish that it was always sunny outside, another person's like, man, I wish it was always night. The two genies look at each other and go, so you basically wish for what we already have, and they the
yeah,
two wishes
yeah.
gone, and
I can
and
give you half and half, which is life.
that's it.
So
That
yeah,
that right, right. So I dig how they set up the rules, and it also makes you as the reader aware that there are things that are probably happening that are just canceling out. Like because
yeah,
there's certain things where, oh, I wish the whole world would explode, and another person sitting there going, oh, I wish there were no more bombs on the planet. All right, well, boop boop, done.
and you,
Nothing
you
happened.
said this came out monthly.
Yep.
So you could imagine between issues 1 and 2, a million people being like, "Well, what would happen if?" and "What would happen if?" And then they get this issue, and it's like, "Well, here's all the rules and regulations,
There
people."
was one of the biggest shop talks about this series was the bartender though, because that was immediately something like everybody was like, "There's something up with this dude. He's not just some doomsday prepper. This is something more to this guy." So
Yeah,
that was one of the most fun conversations to have on a monthly basis. And then once that happened, it then became, where is this all going?
yeah, yeah. So the craziness continues. However, as people continue to mold the world into an unrecognizable state of pure imagination and wish fulfillment. From the bar, our protagonists see that the city is literally on fire, and Li Feng and Wang consider venturing out there. Ed uses his wish to bring back his deceased wife on his son Robbie's birthday. I want to pause there because, like, do you want to talk about like the first instances of things getting like emotional? Like, he just looks in the mirror and he's like, "I'm not a great dad. I haven't been
I'm
since it
not, yeah.
happened, and I don't know what to do, but I do know what to do, which is to bring this back." And I'm like, damn, like instantly I know it's wrong because I know that she's made it from a wish. Like that can't. There's got to be a monkey's paw situation there. What does she
Mhm.
remember? What if she doesn't? Like I'm thinking of every comic book, right? Every comic book
Right,
trope is
right, right,
running through
right.
my head.
What I liked for the most part was it's a good wish. It
Yeah,
was what I because I like that even when he wished it, he said to the genie, he's like, please don't monkey paw this shit. Just
yeah,
give me back my wife for the
yeah,
sake of my son. It's not me. It wasn't even like a selfish wish where it's like, oh, I just wish I had my wife back so she could make me dinner again and shit like that. It's like,
yeah,
man, I'm wishing for my wife back because I'm a shitty parent and my kid needs a better parent around, and she was the better parent. So I dig that they bring it back, and then they even later on explain, oh, she doesn't even remember. She knows she died, but she doesn't remember dying, which is
yeah,
cool. Like you don't want that memory in your head. Like, oh shit, I had cancer or truck hit me or something. You don't want that. You don't want that memory. You kind of want to just feel like I've always been here. And I kind of took a vacation for a little while, and she just goes straight back into. And you can clearly see like this is his parent. She's clearly the better parent, and she just goes back into that motherly role, not just with her son, but even being very motherly in the bar itself. And I
Yeah.
really like that. I really like that. Like it wasn't, but they do explain what they call wishes to bring back dead people. They call them remnants,
Remnants.
and
Yeah.
they explain that okay, once the person who makes the wish is gone, that wish is gone too.
Yeah.
So it then becomes well,
The
how
time bomb
is a
in
time
this whole
bomb?
situation.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, so is the dad gonna die? How well eventually he's gonna die. Eventually one day. So it just plays into that, and then I like the fact that they immediately introduce other remnants very
Oh yeah.
soon.
Yeah, like I say, it's all in like Ryan Browne's artwork in here, where you just see how distraught he is in this moment, and while you kind of look back, I mean, it makes you think about the first issue of him being passed out half the time, you know, passed out and drunk, and now we kind of see why. We kind of realize why, and it just adds so much more depth to now this family. It's a reminder that when you go places, sometimes it feels like everyone that's there for a bar, for instance, right? You walk into a bar, it seems like everyone is there just started existing once you walked in there. But they all, like you said, have their own dream stories, backgrounds. They all come from somewhere. There's a reason why that guy's there, passed out with his son. Well, some people, just kind of shrug that off, but everyone's somewhere for a reason. And I think this kind of explores some of that stuff. Wang wishes to become whatever is needed to survive this new world and is able to protect anyone he's with. He's granted a suit of high-tech armor and he leaves for the Lamplighter bar. There's another knock at the door, and when they open, it's Ernest Hemingway, Jim Morrison,
And Dorothy
and
Parker.
Dorothy Parker. For some reason, I just put Ann Parker and Dorothy Parker, showing that things are going to get a lot crazier
Parker?
before they get better.
You mean
Parker.
you mean that Jason Statham movie, Parker?
Parker. Uh, um, does Oh no, yeah, that was just also to prove a point. So the day isn't even over yet. But Nigel in Antarctica makes a wish to slow down global warming. I was gonna ask if that comes back around, but the point of it is to say that the point I'm showing him is that he thought he stopped the biggest threat to Earth, but doesn't realize how absolutely ridiculous. Like on the list of priorities, stopping global warming is not gonna be nothing compared to what this Earth is gonna go through over the course of this G-Day experiment. Um,
No, because I do like how like this continues to show how there are people who are going to make logical wishes, who are
yeah,
going to truly selfless wishes that go, wow, I'm going to save the planet. But immediately it's opposed by a person who wished that for there to be an actual Santa Claus. The Santa Claus is eaten
yeah.
because the moon is now a sentient being that plucks Santa Claus from the sky and eats him.
It eats meat. It's a carnivorous. It's a carnivorous being. It's not even just
It's
a living
chowing on
being.
Santa. It's chowing on Rudolph, and
Yeah,
the geologist is just looking out like, what?
yeah.
Like
In a world where
I
that
just
is
wished
possible, yeah. What is global warming? Like
it's a minute thing.
yeah,
He doesn't even realize that the Earth is an ice cream cone.
yeah, yeah. That's as cold as it can get. The new arrivals to the bar, Hemingway, Parker, and Jim drink away their existential sorrows as a genie explains they exist because someone wished them alive. Those people then died, leaving them behind, and they are considered remnants. While the Bada Bangs jam with the Lizard King, we follow Wang on his quest to the Lamplighter Tavern. He survives an attack by a literal vampire and continues his quest. Lei Fang tells the patrons that Wang had an important meeting that would secure the future of his family, hence the urgency. Jim Morrison disappears in a cloud of smoke, and it is explained that the remnants disappear shortly after the person who wished them alive dies. This terrifies both Robbie and Ed, who are afraid to lose the woman they just wished back to life. But she comforts them and says she isn't going anywhere. Wang sees a stranger who needs help while on his way back to the Lamplighter bar, but says he will help him on his way back. Does that come back around?
I want to say no. I
It's
don't
meant to
remember.
kind of show like a little bit of callous because he needs help like right there in this instance, and he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I got something I got to do, and if you're still here when I come back, I'll help you." But I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I don't remember that guy come back around, but I think it's just to show how some like people are continuing to just it's just showing. I think it's meant to show more people showing their wishes. I mean, look, he encounters a vampire. Some
Yeah.
dude wished to be a vampire, but
Yeah.
then it
And
shows
he asked him too, like, you do it. He's like, yeah, that's all I ever wanted. It's like, what?
like, oh my god! And then he immediately encounters this guy who he's like, well, why are you walking around here by yourself? He goes, well, I wish to be young again. I was
Yeah.
originally like an 80-year-old man, and I wish to be young again. Like, what a simple wish! Like, just to, and I think he even says he's like, the whole reason I want to be young again so I can spend more time with my children, who he's now
Yeah.
trying to walk to get to see. And like, Wang is just like, I got somewhere to be, man.
I think though,
I got
I
a
think also
pregnant
the
wife.
road is sentient at that point. And he can't get around it
He
or
can't get
whatever.
around it. You know, I think that more plays into Wang later on in life than his character, because I'm pretty sure that guy never comes back around. But it plays
Okay.
more into Wang's story of how he becomes more protective of just not just his own family, but where they eventually end up.
Oh, interesting. And also, I guess it also speaks to the idea of using your wishes for your family more so than for yourself, right? Because he used his wish to become young, but if his family doesn't survive this, then what's the point in becoming young?
Yep.
Yep. Jim Morrison dies.
Which I thought was it immediately shows you like, oh, okay, so the dude who wished to have Jim Morrison back, which I think is another just more with these wild wishes, right? So there were three people who each one guy said, oh man, Hemingway needs to be back alive. Dorothy Parker needs to come back. Another guy's like, dude, I've always wanted to see Morrison. That guy, within what, maybe a day or two,
I think they said it was a sex thing. I think someone said.
So, right, but that dude gets murdered, obviously, because the Jim Morrison remnant poof, explodes right in the middle of Bada. What do they call the Bada Bings?
The Bada Bangs.
The Bada Bangs go out with a bang because they're like, man, we're jamming with Jim Morrison. This is gonna be great. Poof, and everybody immediately looks over at what's his name's wife, like, oh, that's gonna be you one day.
I'm quite surprised people didn't get cabin fever much in this. Like, it doesn't seem like a huge bar. They're there for a long time.
They do, but they also realize they have no choice but to stay there. At one point, nuclear radiation goes on, but the moment they can get past that, they're a lot of people are out of there. They're like, we got to get out of here. We are getting cabin fever, especially I think the mom. The mom gets cabin fever.
Oh,
hella bad.
Yeah.
So
Wang makes it to the other bar, the Lamp Lighter, and it turns out he was originally there because he was blackmailed into transferring over corporate secrets of his employer. When the bar owner asks for the data, Wang refuses and crushes the USB stick. The owner begins to threaten Wang, but he kills him instantly, and his genie, having not granted a wish, disappears. This is kind of confusing in hindsight, because he says he didn't realize this until he got there, right? I guess then is what the whole situation was. Like, he was totally down to go down with this exchange of information so as to not to be blackmailed, and it's even kind of even implied deported. So if he knew that like this wouldn't matter in this world that exists, why make this trek?
Because until he goes out into the world, he doesn't realize how crazy the world has.
Ridiculous, right? Like I say, he hasn't realized. Yeah.
So I think once he gets there, he goes through his little hero's journey on his own, and he gets there. He realizes, wait a minute, I am now a killing machine. That why do I have to do anything for this moron?
Right.
So he uses his ability, kills him, and I like that when he kills him, the genie who's with the wish he never uses goes, oh, he doesn't even get to use his wish. And
he says, what a waste.
what a waste.
But I like that. Yeah, that's like, come on, that is the logical thing. Like, I mean, once you're there, the trip wasn't necessarily logical, but you're right. I think you've convinced me. I do think that once he's encountered and seen everything out there and realizes, again, similar to maybe it's a parallel to the global warming thing, right? Where it's like the thing that you're worried about in the grand scheme of things is nowhere close to what's actually going to happen in this world.
Yeah,
and once he realizes
he's still playing by the old rules. Oh, I've agreed to do something for this person, or else this is going to happen to me. Then he gets out in that world and he's like, what can this dude do to me? That's
Yeah,
worse than what I'm already experiencing. Oh, and by the way, I'm now a killing machine. I'm just
that's
gonna
also
murder this person.
that's also always been kind of an interesting thing that they play on, right? Like in this dystopian or zombie apocalypse kind of stuff is the hesitance to go with the new way, and how some people who are quicker to go to the new way were ones that were never really good at the old way. So this new world they relish in because they were never really good at the old world, and vice versa. Those that were great at the old world are sucking in the new one, because the rules have all changed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Adapt or die.
adapt or die. But I always think about like the zombie apocalypse thing. Like some people get real feral in situations like that. It's like at what point do you get back to things being like again? It's similarly in this. Like eventually there'll be a point where like you need government again, and you need you need leaders again. And well, do the leaders get the wishes? And it's very interesting how all that stuff plays out. But he returns to the bar and gathers the patrons and tells them how much life has changed and how much the world has changed. On day 8, Robbie decides his wish. He presents his genie with a drawing of himself as a hero, and his genie makes a wish, or makes his wish a reality. Robbie is transformed into a superhero so he can protect his parents in this new unpredictable world. He ventures out to find a safe place for them and is immediately attacked, but then meets other kids who wished to be heroes as well. I love that he made such a child wish, and I love that there would obviously be other children who've made the same wish, and I love that they've all met each other somehow and now gonna have like this weird adult superhero play date thing.
No, right. And then immediately he gets out there, and immediately this is what people have wished to be heroes, people have wished to be villains. And Willie, again, in his forethought, has already called it like, oh, we're in the, I forget what it's called. He calls it like
Powers stage or something like that.
the
Yeah,
power
right.
stage, right? Where there's this mass amount of people that just wish to either be a superhero or
Villain. Yeah.
a villain.
Yep.
And so, and immediately they just, and it becomes like the Avengers versus the Masters of Evil.
Yeah.
He's out in the planet just trying to help out.
No, and now we have like I was laughing before about the cape shit comment, but now we have a superhero now. Like now we're like in a superhero portion of this story, which is very interesting. We fast forward to week 2, where Robbie, now known as Sun Man, and his new superpowered friends do their best to wrangle in the mischief around the world since G-Day. The other guy's name was King Power, the Sun God, or something like that. I can't remember his exact name, but it's something absolutely ridiculous. Alex and Brian discover that even though they are in a band together, they don't know much about one another. So they start to get to know one another. June is worried about Robbie, her son, but a genie lets her know that he wished for the exact right amount of powers to keep himself safe. While this may be true, Robbie seems startled by the amount of violence and death it takes to save the world. At week 6, June and Li Fang chat about her baby, and Li Fang realizes that June doesn't remember ever dying. What a
This is the scene where
poignant moment.
well, no, this is where we should, right. This is the scene I was talking about earlier, where
Yeah,
not only that, but she's just motherly.
yeah,
Not only to her child, she's thinking about her child, but she also still has the time to go to this pregnant woman and ask her, like, and not even being able to communicate with her because she speaks Chinese, she's speaking English. The genies are serving as interpreters, which I thought
yeah.
was adorable. And she's still going to her like, oh, how are you? What are you doing? And Li Fang is like, wait, she doesn't know how she died? Like, that's crazy. And then she indirectly comforts her, like she holds her hand
Yeah,
and like, oh
that's what
wow,
got
like,
me. I was like, wow. I was like, this book is deep because
yeah.
we're doing stuff in the art. There's not a word spoken there, but you know exactly what's
Mm-mm.
going through her head. Like, poor thing.
Right,
Like you're
right,
you're the poor thing. I'm the one pregnant in the genie apocalypse. But you're the person that I'm sympathizing for in this moment.
right. Like you're not a real person. But even in not being a real person, you're comforting me. That's crazy.
And interestingly enough, we go to week 7, right? And Wang and Ed are bonding over being parents, and it seemed like Ed has stopped drinking, which is quite interesting. He stopped drinking right when his wife kind of showed up. So it completes that equation for us. For anyone thinking whether or not his drinking was impacted at all by his wife's death, I think in this moment where he's talking to Wang, he's like, "Yeah, I've been drinking in a while." This is exactly what that is. Daisy apologizes to Brian for her first wish, and June is assured that Robbie is okay. Speaking of Robbie, he does battle with two Godzillas in Japan and murders one of them to save the few civilians left. Most of them were massacred. He's congratulated by his new friend, King Power the Star, but then that friend takes a fatal blow from the villain, the Royal We. Sometimes it makes me laugh when these comics come up with like parodies, villains, and heroes, because I'm like, I totally use that as a real villain. That we are the Royal We. Just two pieces of the same thing. Like I could totally see that being in a comic. But then again, like, so you're sitting in this moment, you're watching this kid literally like feel the weight of all this death on his shoulders. He gets congratulated by his friend, which is like the little glimmer of hope. Then that friend gets massacred. Then he's crying. He's crying with the friend. And he's like, "Oh my God, you can't go. I don't know what to do. I'm only 12.
I'm only 12 years old." And he's like, this dude is in his discombobulated state because he gets murdered by the villain. He gets murdered by someone who can twist himself into a pretzel. And in twisting himself into a pretzel, he does that to another person. He does that to his friend. And the kid, he's all he's like, "Well, you're 12, but I'm 11. So
and dies.
If I can figure it out, you can too."
Yeah. And then just dies. And he holds his dead superhero 11-year-old friend. Back at the bar, Alex gets drunk and demands to know. And this just hit me like a ton of bricks. Maybe all of this is a metaphor for like wanting to grow up too fast.
Yes.
Wanting to be in charge, or having to feel like you have to grow up fast so that you can take care of your parents or take care of your family. Mm-hmm. You know, once you put that responsibility on you, you kind of stop being a kid, and the effects that kind of stuff can have on you. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree because that's another thing, right? This kid wished basically to grow up so he could take care of his family, and even as things are moving along, you have to constantly tell yourself, this is a kid,
12 years old.
He's 12 years old, like he's a kid, and even though he does age up, he's stunted. You know,
yeah,
he's stunted, and then you're dealing. Can you imagine the PTSD from that?
It's bonkers. And again, it's one thing when you look up to somebody and they, you know, and they've sort of passed away, and then to find out they were younger than you, so they possibly even knew less than you, were more innocent than you, and are now dead. Maybe he turned to a superhero so he could protect his family. Now that's out the window, you know. This little 11-year-old kid. You couldn't do this you couldn't show like the spirit of these kids in this scene, right? This is like an R-rated kind of. Yeah.
Oh, just imagine that! Like in that moment, he loses his wish. For 3 seconds, he loses his wish before he officially dies. He turns back to this 11-year-old kid with bones sticking out everywhere. Oh man,
bonkers! And at the same time, I should bring that up as well. At the same time, we find these two Godzillas, and he has to make a choice because he's like, are these Godzillas that people wish to be in this world, or are these people who wish to be Godzillas? And if these are people who wish to be Godzillas and I kill them, I am killing people.
Yep. That's what I'm saying about this PTSD. Like, he's 12 years old, he's killing people, he's fighting, he's doing all these things, he's seeing horrific things. Like, because some of these villains look atrocious. Like, just seeing them is the stuff of nightmares.
Right.
And he's this 12-year-old kid, and he has this realization that I was like, wait, I'm actually killing people, even though I've wished to be a superhero, right? And at 12 years old, most people understand, like, well, Batman never kills anybody, Superman never killed anybody, Wolverine, that guy maybe a killed couple.
The best
maybe a couple. You know, he's right, exactly. But for the most part, you're not. But now he's realizing, he's kind of coming into that mindset of, well, am I a hero? Am I a villain? What am I looking at? What am I dealing with here? Is this when he flies off into space for a second?
No, not yet. Well, okay. No, not yet. Back at the bar, Alex gets drunk and demands to know how Williams knew what to do on G-Day. And Williams drops the bomb. He himself is a genie. He explains that he was the last genie left from the last universe this happened to. He explains that once the universe is filled to the brim with want, usually when the population hits 8 billion, G-Day happens and the universe ultimately is destroyed and rebuilt. Um, this explains, right, the beginning of him being so like on it.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, like it's a hell of a bomb to drop. It gives us somebody who can kind of explain things from the perspective of the genies, which is helpful because the genies are also there, but they're a little mischievous as is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and William seems to really care about these people in this bar. You know, at any point he'd be like, "Yo, everybody get out of here!" Right? But he
Right.
seems to
Right.
to care, and we'll find out why he has any sort of affection towards humanity later on. Anything else you want to say about the reveal?
Well, no, it was kind of like it was one of those because even in revealing he reveals it and then it unfolds and it
Yeah,
unfolds really over like 2 or even 3 issues because they don't just he doesn't James Bond villain it. He doesn't just
yeah,
sit there and then monologue and give the whole story in that one issue. He gives a little bit of it in his reveal. Then I think the
yeah.
next issue he kind of explains it a little bit more. And then I think the last issue or the second to last issue he
The last
really
issue we get his
gives
origin story,
he get
basically.
the whole exposition of him.
Yeah,
So even in it getting the reveal, you're not given everything. So it's like,
right,
oh wait, well, how does that make sense that he's a genie? Can he grant wishes? Is he like the super genie?
right, right,
Where does he
right.
come from? You know, like what's going on with this guy? So
Can he make
it
a
was
wish? Can someone make a wish asking him? Like, there's a bunch of
well, we already saw him make a wish. You know what
yeah.
I
No,
mean?
I
So
mean,
it's
can
like,
someone use
well,
him to make a wish
I see what you're
if he's a
saying. So yeah,
genie?
you're right. It's like, well, what is this guy? Like, what is the deal with him? How he is a genie? Was a genie? Yeah, I at first I was kind of like pissed off at the reveal, but then the way it unfolds that they explain it, I was like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
it's cool, it's cool.
I think he actually explains here that as a when you are the last genie in this cycle, you get rewarded by becoming a human on Earth.
Right,
Um,
but then it makes you think like right, and we say that like in this cycle, right?
yeah,
So you've done this shit
yeah,
before, and
right,
that made me go into that more of that mindset of this is a freaking game. This is just something they're doing for fun. It's
yeah,
not something this is in no because it started to remind me of Gremlins, right?
right,
Like when you
right,
describe
yeah,
them,
yeah,
it's just like, ooh, who doesn't want this cute furry creature to keep? Oh, well, stand by. This thing's going to end up killing you.
yeah,
And this is kind of like what happens, right? Give everybody a wish. And ooh, look, it's a game that if you're the last one, you then get to be a part of the game where you're not really a real participant. You just get to be in the mix of it, you know?
yeah,
You know, it's kind of like those people who like when watching professional sports and like that one fan that has a ton of money is like, hey man, we're gonna let you like be in the game for like one play. You're gonna
right, right,
feel
right,
what it's like, you know. So it's like, ooh, I'm that person. I'm the genie. I'm the last genie from the last time we fucked around with this planet.
right.
So I get to now be in the game, but but I'm not really part of the game. I'm just here to like, it's a
Have you ever seen Squid
it's an
Games?
Oculus
Oh yeah,
experience.
it is. It is virtual. It is virtual reality. Have you ever seen Squid Game?
I have not. I have not. I am
Okay,
not
there's
a.
something
I'm
similar with that, but yeah, it's
really
this idea.
okay.
Yeah, it's this idea of sort of being able to spectate. Um. Okay, so yeah, Big Genie reveal. He believes one of the bar patrons will be the one to make the last wish. Robbie finds the royal we and murders them for killing his friend. All of this death and destruction is too much for Robbie to bear, so he flies out of Earth's atmosphere. This proves to be the right call, as suddenly a wave of energy surges through the earth, killing every single person that it touched. Robbie is shocked and rushes to a domed community he can see from space. He cries and begs to be let in, saying he wants to find somewhere good. A man in 3D glasses opens the door, welcomes him in, and introduces himself as the Idea Man. I wonder what the 3D glasses are about.
I I I'm gonna get into that
Yeah,
because yeah. Oh yeah.
you got something with that?
Are we gonna talk
Oh,
about it
okay,
before we actually get
hold
to
on,
him?
hold
You
on,
know
hold
what I
on,
mean?
hold on.
Because
So,
it's something real simple.
so we get a backstory on Floyd Fawn, aka the Idea Man. He was a curious child who constantly had his ideas turned down. As he grew older, his luck grew worse, and he couldn't get anyone to believe his ideas. When G-Day
You know why,
happened,
right?
why he couldn't get anyone to believe his ideas?
Yeah, you know why, right?
Why?
Because they're bad ideas, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
This guy's a
yeah,
fucking idiot.
yeah. But my thing is like the peas and milk. Like somebody digs that. He may be the only one who digs that there, but somebody digs that. Somebody there's all kinds of weird like there's ketchup chips. That's a thing, right? Somebody
There are.
did
There
that.
are.
So like he does come up with a lot of bad ideas though. But I'm kind of on his side in the beginning here, you know. But I also was getting kind of sort of funky Flashman vibes, which also speaks to kind of the charlatan idea man, right? Sort of comic book charlatan that people have portrayed certain people to be, which I thought was pretty
Yes.
interesting as well. Um, so when G-Day happened, he used his wish to make everyone believe in him. We go to present times where the population has dwindled to just above 50 million due to the scouring. There was 8 billion people on the planet. 8 billion. And now there's 50 million.
Million.
50 million. The idea man lets Robbie into his fortress, Hope's Hollow, and introduces him to his wife and daughter. Hope's Hollow is an exclusive haven run by the Idea Man that claims to be a place of big thinkers and strategists. This is where everyone thought to go, you know, when everything went down. Robbie asks if his parents can join him here, but the Idea Man seems hesitant as Ed and Robbie both have no genies, which are a commodity in the world right now, and June is a remnant. He agrees to consider it so long as Robbie works for him, and Robbie agrees. Which, I mean, everything he says is going to be agreed upon because that's
Right.
his wish.
That's his wish. That's his wish.
Yeah.
And this is why it's dangerous to have someone like this, because you're immediately shown that this dude is just full of bad ideas. It's innocent, like the peas in the milk, as that all starts off innocent, but you can see that there's a reason why no one believes in this person before he makes his wish, because he's just full of bad ideas. I
Yeah.
truly believe he's the reason he wears those 3D glasses are because he thinks that's like fashionable, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
Unless you're looking at something that's
He
meant to
thinks
be
it's
looked at in
cool.
3D, he thinks it's
Is that the
cool.
man we trust? Is that the man who we greenlight their ideas? The guy walking around in
No,
the 3D glasses
no, and I mean,
when we already see in 3D.
exactly. This is clearly an idiot. He names his fortress Hope's Hollow.
Yeah.
Hollow Hopes.
Yeah.
You don't have any hope in this guy. This guy's an idiot. He's just someone that made a solid wish. Like, ooh, I'm gonna make it so that everyone believes in me. The
Right.
ultimate manipulator, right? And I mean,
Ultimate con man, right?
ultimate comment, right? Because what does he do? He finds a way to get people to give him his wishes there, and he has this arsenal of wishes. And it
Yeah.
just goes to show how, you know, you don't need to be a genius to be ruthless,
Right.
and it's scary.
Yeah.
He's a scary person, because what's worse about him is the fact that not only do other people are falsely believing in him, but this man really believes in himself, and it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
And now, because of his ability, we have invested interest because now Robbie believes in him. And we know what Robbie's just been through. And we know Robbie's willing to do whatever it takes to get his family to be safe. What does that mean? We're
And
not sure yet.
He's
Yeah.
a kid. He's a kid that's now his it's bad enough that the world itself has already changed for this dude, for this kid, right? He then thought by becoming a superhero, he was going to change the world and save his parents. That world then gets eradicated, right? In that energy surge that went throughout the entire planet, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't realize was probably done by this guy.
Right, right.
That wiped out all his superhero buddies, all the villains, and anybody else who was just not someplace safe.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about it, right? He designed this dome, and then this happens. It's
Right.
pretty convenient. It was probably this guy. He probably did it. He probably knew, because he has this idea, man, right? Ruthless ideas. What's the way to make sure you're okay? I'm gonna use one of my wishes to wipe out everybody that can possibly affect me, and then I'm going to remake the world the way I want it. So
Yeah.
he gets this 12-year-old Superman to show up at his doorstep, who's just looking for something. Like, look, man, I need to make sure my family's safe. I'm looking for something. I've just had my world remapped twice now in what I think at this point, what we're at 8 weeks or 8 months.
Yeah, it's been uh I'm not sure.
I think we're at 8 months.
I think
I think
we're
we're
at eight
like,
months.
yeah, around 8 months. So in less than a year, this kid has been through some hellish shit. So, and then he sees this guy who, what's his wish? I'm gonna make people believe in me. So, the 12
We're
year old
in
mind.
we're before 8 months because 7 months is the refreshing wish.
Okay, so even
So we're like
less.
right in between, yeah, but less than half a year, and look at everything that's happened so far.
Yep,
Um,
it's crazy.
and like you were saying, so back at the Lampwick, William explains that someone must have used a wish to scour the earth of anyone not living in a haven. When a genie is pressed on this matter, it is explained that while they usually don't grant world-shattering wishes, they have to if it's worded in a very specific and matter-of-fact particular way, which, is the first breadcrumb. Someone is taking out the competition, so our barflies lock the door and continue to stay inside. Months later, Lei Fang, who is further along in her pregnancy, asks about her baby's genie and wish and learns that until her child can actually speak and comprehend what a wish is, her genie will not grant one. The Zangs also learned their child is a girl. June, who has been keeping her stress about Ravi at bay by painting a mural, finds out that he might be in danger. Her and Ed argue about her very existence as a remnant, and June tries to go outside and save her son when Lei Fang starts to go into labor. This is what you're talking about, Bill, with the cabin fever stuff. She's been there waiting. Robbie has not come back in months since he left as a superhero and said he was going to find them a place to stay.
Right,
And
it's been a while.
something that you spoke to, there's a bit of the fact that Ed wished for June the mother and not June the wife here, right? Because that's all she's thinking about is Robbie. Like, she, of course, loves and is affectionate towards Ed, but the person that Ed wished into back here is the mother, and the mother is all the instincts are going off, like all the intuition and bells and whistles are going off here.
And she's nesting. She's painting this giant mural. She's taking care of everybody, but then she kind of snaps, like, I gotta get the fuck out of this place.
Right. Because one of the genies says that he's trapped. I mean, he's like trapped, like mentally, not like restrained or anything. But yeah. So while they initially believed the childbirth would be simple, Lei Fang starts to hemorrhage and lose a lot of blood. Afraid for his wife and coming daughter, Wang threatens both Alex and Brian and demands that they use their wishes to save his family. I was like, oh shit. Oh, dip. I was like, this is... Things just got real.
I thought, I really did think he was about to kill one of them.
Yeah.
And then thankfully the baby was born safely. Yep. And Alex immediately is just like, see, everything's okay. I still have my wish. Your kid's okay. Whew. Get that gun out of my face now, please.
Because he's basically, like, now, do it now. Use your wish to save my family. And again, are you going to be like, no? I mean, you totally can be, but you then have to face the consequences of staying in this one location with this family this whole time. So I thought all of that, that played really well. Because we've also seen his ruthlessness with the bar guy, which I guess is another reason why they inserted that in here. The rules have changed. He will kill for his family.
He will kill for his family, definitely. He has no allegiance to them. His whole wish was to keep how to protect himself and his family. So I truly believe he was, if she kept bleeding out, I think he would have blown his head off. And like, no wish for you, period.
They both hesitate, but luckily Lei Fang survives the childbirth and their daughter is born. It's month 7, and the Idea Man, flanked by his security of superpowered people, is given a very specifically worded wish that costs him 3 wishes to procure. So now we realize that he's using wishes to pay for. I mean, I guess we could kind of reveal this now because it's not a huge reveal, but basically, legal binding wishes, wishes curated by attorneys who know the
Right.
very exact way to skate around whatever loopholes or go through whatever loopholes they can with these genie wishes stuff. Because, like I said, genies have their own rules about things they don't like to do, but the idea man is able to get these lawyers to word these things so specifically that they have no choice but to get them done.
Right.
So
He even knows that, like, I can't break. If I break, then they could just say, okay, then that's the end of the wish. That this I'm going to do this. So he, like, prepares for this. He's
drink
got
some
water ready.
Yeah.
He's take a deep breath so he can say this whole long contract of a wish. It's insane, and the genies hate him. The genies hate him. They're just like, nah, man, you're the dude that ruins these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ruins the fun of this. He uses the wish to restore the world back to where it was before G-Day without replenishing the population or resurrecting anyone. The entire wish takes hours to recite, but it works and the environment is back to normal. With it safe to go outside, both the Bada Bangs and the Zangs leave Lampwick to try their luck in the new world. Ed and June stay in an additional month, and soon Robbie comes back to take them to Hope's Hollow, leaving Williams as the last person at the bar. We are 13 months after G-Day, and the Bada Bangs have been traveling for 6 of those months. They are ambushed by militants looking for genies to kill as a means of protecting the already jacked up world. But they fend them off. It's also made aware to us that Brian and Alex have had a hard time making a wish as they waited too long, so all their ideas are instantly second guessed. What do you think about that idea? The idea of wish lock?
I dug it. It made sense. Because I was also thinking, not just is it the subconscious idea that, oh yeah, you know, like you kind of get stuck because you don't want to give up your wish, because then you're thinking, well, am I going to miss out on the next potential wish? So you get stuck in that. But not only that, but you're forming a bond with these little dudes, man. Because these dudes can work for you. They're talking to you. They're providing you with company. Because even in that scene, right? They don't.
Oh, they're lightning. They're
lightning, right? Yeah. So they don't. It's kind of like having Genie from Aladdin, so to speak, where it's like, I don't have to wish something. You could still do stuff to protect my ass. And I love the fact that, like, the genies are getting shot and they play along with it for a second.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh my god, like, I'm bleeding out. Oh my god, and they're like, what? And they're like, nah, we're fine. We're just having fun. Whatever. Oh well, can you like make everybody go blind by making a giant light? Oh yeah, I can do that. That's no problem. Sure. And they do it, but they don't waste the wish. So it's like, it's not only that, but you're giving up your companion, this pet, what's the word? Familiar, right? So to speak, this thing that just works for you. So yeah, it made sense that why would you just give it up now, right? You've been surviving in this world on your own. I have this little dude as my buddy, and I also don't want to just give it up on a wish that I'm going to probably instantly regret, because you're seeing it around you, and and for them three in particular, they're looking at someone who instantly regretted their wish. So it's like, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose. I'm not ready for that. I'll wait.
I also got to believe it's a little bit of like giving up quite literally the only sure thing in this world, right? The only thing you're sure of is you get to make a wish. You're not sure of anything else in this world. Once you make that wish, you are now surrendering yourself to whatever this world has to offer, which Daisy's fine with because she's been living this life since G-Day. Which I think is it's another interesting thing, you know, like she is living, you know?
Right.
She doesn't have the same fears or whatever, you know, like it's it's perspectives. Yeah, so they're walking around. Frustrated with living in survival mode, Daisy decides that she is going to Fun City with or without the rest of them, which is a haven where you have to audition. The others are hesitant, but agree when they find out that the Zangs and the Greens have also tried their luck elsewhere, with the Zangs living in Ohio with the baby, and the Greens living it up in Hope Hollow, although June doesn't seem to be enjoying herself. Before finding Fun City, the band finds a city that is half haven, half remnant, having been wished by its founder, Helen Gutierrez, to exist. It is perpetually the 1980s there, and after meeting Helen herself, they agree to stay. June thinks Robbie is being tricked by the idea man after seeing past his remnant family, and this discovery sparks an argument between her and Ed, who just wants his family to be happy. June's right.
Yes, big time. Big time.
Yeah.
She knows the deal. She can see through it, which is
She's a genie too. Oh, no, she's a genie too. I mean, as a remnant, they say that she sees things differently. So she already sussed out the other remnant family. Like, yeah, like I'm remnant. I can smell the other remnants.
Like, this is exactly like I can see through all. I'm living bullshit. I can see through the bullshit. Yeah. And the dude is he's dangerous. He's dangerous.
He's kind of just, and this is not, I'm not laying this at the feet of any one particular one, but he's just a basic cartoon caricature of a politician.
Right.
He has the fake
generically speaking. Speaking.
Yeah. He has the fake family propped up, right? He's gonna make everybody safe. You just have to give him your wishes. And he'll send your children to war.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So it's quite, like I said, all of this is played, like the premise is all played humorous, but there's a lot of deep stuff in this, and you start to care about characters.
But I do like the idea that he's not the only safe haven, right? They have Fun City. I think even at this point they kind of make mention
Town
of
or Dougland,
something like that.
All the Dougs.
Yes, and then somebody wished for like this perfect '80s town that would always be around. So there are factions, and there are some people who make these nice wishes for people, and then you have to imagine there's probably other ruthless bastards out there like Floyd, which I forget at this point if we've met those people yet, but there are.
I think we're about to. I know that with this like haven thing, I thought that was kind of cool. Like, she wished this sort of like kind of half exists in this weird, like it's not a dome structure, it's just kind of like half exists in this in the 80s kind of stuff. And I wondered if these places would be at odds if the idea man wasn't actively striking them constantly all the time. Like I wonder if it's just a natural occurrence that once things get to the haven portion, that the haven start warring. It reminds me of when you get to that certain part in The Walking Dead where it's very similar, right? Where you have rampaging groups going over and taking over. It means more land, it means more people, it means more whatever. Or when people come into a society, like, why should we bring you in here? What do you have to offer? This Alexandria or wherever they were doing in The Walking Dead. So yeah, I like how they laid all that stuff out. Several years have passed, and the Bada Bangs thrive at the Haven. Brian even finds a boyfriend, which that is when old girl was all over him and was like, "What do you think about us?" And he was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, he was gay. Yeah, there you go. He was gay, guys. So unfortunately, Helen discovers that she doesn't have much longer to live, and when she does eventually die, she takes the entirety of the Haven with it. With nowhere else to go, the Bada Bangs set their sights on Fun City. We're seeing people live lives. Like this is the first real big jump of time, and we're seeing people actually living their lives, whether or not it's happy stuff, like the sad stuff going on with June, or weird stuff going on with Robbie. But then you have like the Bada Bangs got to live, Yeah,
and they're making the most of it. Like they were having a good life in that town. Yeah, it was just the party stopped because the woman who wished for all these remnants died. So the remnants went with her, and they were like, "All right, what are we going to do now?" And then you see Fun City, which sounds like, honestly, I was expecting Fun City to be a town run by kids. It reminded me. The name of it makes me think of like Neverland with the Lost Boys. I thought they were going to get there and realize, oh shoot, it's a bunch of kids. Yeah, but it's kind of worse. It's a bunch of
weird, judgy adults. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like trying to get into American Idol and shit. I was like, what the hell is going on in this place? It's a floating city on the back of a flying
Whale.
humpback whale, a blue whale,
Yeah.
blue whale.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what? This is talk about
I
fun. Talk
I,
about
I mean
fun.
I immediately thought of Fun Time in USA. Fun Time
Wow,
USA.
taking it back.
I'm telling you. So it's year 7, and Lei Feng and Wang's daughter is just about old enough to make her wish. Her parents agree they must leave Ohio before they are forced out for harboring 2 genies. Lei Feng finds out through her genie that a haven exists where children have their wishes confiscated until they are of responsible age. Even though their daughter may not like it, the Zhangs agreed to head over there. I was really looking for a word. I think confiscated works, right? Getting their genies confiscated, these kids.
Um,
Would
they
that
weren't.
work?
They
Would that word?
they're not getting
They
counted.
don't. They don't
It's
get. They're
more.
not getting taken away. But I don't know
They're not
what
getting
else.
taken away.
What
They're
other
getting
word? What other word to use?
I felt like it was kind of like a chastity belt, you know?
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't
You
you
get to
can't
keep
use
it, but you
this.
can't use it.
Right. And you can't use this until we say so. You
Right.
know? We got a Robin Hood Men in Tights your genie right here. Here's the chastity belt. Here you go. You can't use this until we say so.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's never worked out in the history of parenting, right?
which
Like,
right. Which this is the family we saw, I believe, in the first issue. This is
yeah.
their town. This is the
Hmm.
Gutierrez family who was like, hey, you can't use your wishes unless we give you permission. And they
Like,
turned
wow,
the
we should
whole
do a whole
idea into
town of
a
that.
whole town of it. But
Yeah.
they're thriving. Like that idea is making it.
Yeah. Ronnie is seen acting on Idea Man's orders and decimating remaining havens. Something fundamental has changed within him as he doesn't flinch about the thought of death anymore. At one point, they're
Yeah,
like, "What should we do?" He's like, "I'll just crush their heads like grapes."
right. He's sitting there like the superstar on the bench. You know, he's just trying to read, and they come over to him and they're like, "Hey, man, we have this insurgents that we can't deal with." He's like, "Oh, that's right. You can't do that. I'll go take care of it. Sure,
Yeah,
whatever.
I'll go kill him.
Let me put my book down. I'll be right
Yeah,
back."
yeah, and it's like,
You know,
damn,
he's just
disaffected.
because even at this point, he's probably only 20 something years old, but
Yeah,
how much stuff has he done by this point where this kid's soul is just stripped down?
more of
But
his life would have been spent, or a lot of his life would have been spent doing this as opposed to living a child's life.
right. And the whole time he's just looking like this grown ass adult.
Yeah, son, man. The Bada Bangs audition for Fun City in an American Idol type audition, but they are told they aren't good enough. Pissed off, Daisy tells the judges that the boys have genies, which should up their value to the community. She does this even if it means her herself will not be accepted into Fun City. Realizing her sacrifice, the guys agree to use 1 genie to make a wish that all 3 of them share the final genie, with the wish going to the last person in the trio alive. With this loophole, they are finally allowed into Fun City.
I thought that
I
was
thought
cool.
this would have caused more problems than it did.
No. You like this just lends itself to my idea that these genies are just looking to watch some fun. So they hear
The
this and
fact
they're
that
like,
you
"Ooh."
can even do this, right? The fact that you can even
Right.
do this, right?
Well, I mean, you're still giving up a wish. It's not like they just said, "Hey, can you just do this?" It was like, "Oh, I mean,
Right, right.
one who was it? Brian or
Alex, I
Alex?"
think why they wished away Alex's genie. I think that was Brian's genie at the end
Yeah,
of it.
to
Yeah.
turn that one genie into a tri genie that
Yeah.
they all share the one wish, that one last wish to,
Right.
to make sure she gets in. And you could just tell like the genies were like, "Ooh, this sounds like fun. Like, let's do it. What's this gonna lead to?"
Yeah.
It's like why the heck not? And I like how they made it look like it's a triple genie where every
3
sliver
different
looks
colors, yeah.
like look it's 3 different colors, and it looks, one part of it looks like Daisy, a little bit looks like Alex, a little bit looks like Brian.
Yeah.
I thought it was cute, and I like that despite how their relationship was going, with that whole supposed love triangle, they are now just like a cohesive little family.
Yeah.
And so much so that they don't want to do something without the other.
Right.
That like, oh no, if she can't
It's
come
been
in, we're
years.
not.
Yeah, it's been
It's
years.
right. I think by this point it's been about 8 years now.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, if we can't do this together, we ain't doing it. And they're like, oh, how can we cleverly do this? Hey, we're now basically one person, the three of us. So you take all of us or you take none of us. And what's the most powerful thing in this universe right now? Wishes. So they're like, screw it. We'll let them all in if it's gonna come with that triple genie wish of yours. So sure, you guys are now welcome into Fun Time USA.
If you substitute, wish for dream, which you can in some instances, one could argue that they do have a shared dream now, right? They do have a shared goal as them being a group, like with them being together and being somewhere safe and stuff. So who needs to, if we're all on the same page, kind of. I think my instant distrust says more about my my inability to compromise than anything else. Because I immediately like, oh, this is gonna go wrong. Like they're gonna have to kill each other to get the last wish or whatever the hell.
Right,
But no,
right.
I underestimated their bond.
I thought,
Um,
yeah, I thought Daisy was gonna get the This Is Sparta boot.
right.
They were just gonna kick her ass off the flying whale. Like, oh
I
no,
love
this
that
is
they're
gonna
like,
be
I guess
bad.
it's hers too, so fine. That works.
That's
Um,
it.
we are 9 whole years after G-Day, and the Zangs find themselves traveling through the coast of Argentina on the way to that haven we spoke of earlier. They are attacked by a sea creature, and it is just then that the daughter's genie begins to tell her about her wish. They kill the sea creature, whose only sin was wishing to be part of the sea, before finally getting to El Futuro, the haven they were hoping for, created by the kid from the second issue. They offer up their genies and Wang's armor and immediately agree to surrender their daughter Ting Su's ability to wish, which shocks her. We fast forward to year 10, where the Idea Man meets with his cohorts, a couple of high-priced attorneys who live in a super secluded haven with a population of 25. Idea Man is there to ask them for help crafting the perfect wish so he can demolish all other havens, but they refuse and they decline his business. It's then we find out that they helped him craft numerous wishes in the past, including the ones that scoured the earth and the one that brought it back. The
There you go.
dismissal comes as a betrayal to Idea Man, who starts to threaten them before they reveal a weapons grade amount of genies in their control, all collected as payments from former clients. The Idea Man backs down. Every time you think you're bad, somebody badder.
Somebody else is better, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Now you're starting to see there's more of these collectives of people who are realizing, okay, if we collect genies somehow, some way, we this is the arms race, right? This is this world's arms race. Whoever has the most genies wins.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. And look, you got the ultimate politician arguing with the ultimate lawyer.
Yeah.
Two pieces of shit arguing over who's a bigger piece of crap.
I do
Uh,
love that, like, yeah, like they position lawyers at like the top of the hierarchy of evil in this book because of how they're able to use language and change how people believe what people believe in things. Which I mean,
right.
there's a lot to be said to that too. It's year 15 in El Futuro, and Ting Shu, who goes by Betty now, talks to the other kids and realizes how screwed up it is that they all got their wishes confiscated. You can tell that Betty is seriously affected by this and says that she thinks she hates her parents. This is a conversation like, and then they start talking about like, oh, you could be this age to drink and this age to join the army, but we got to be 25 here to make wishes. And it's just every rebellious young adult conversation with their friends about wanting to push boundaries and parents being unfair. Because again, like Betty was born in this, right? So to her,
Yeah,
she's only gone from haven to haven. She has no
right.
idea what's on the other side of those gates. So
She
to
doesn't
her,
know
she's like,
about
why are they?
pre G Day.
She's like, why are they being so protective? Why are they withholding my wish? Why are they? And it's like, well, I mean, you're both kind of in the wrong and both kind of in the right here.
Right.
Yep. Betty. Speaking of parents, it's year 20 in Hope's Hollow, and Ed Green suffers a fatal heart attack. Realizing it's
Dun
her
dun
time
dun.
to go, June rushes to Robbie to give him the news and tearfully warns her son about the Idea Man's nefarious plans before poofing away. El Futuro are planning their defense against the Idea Man, afraid of what he's capable of. Their leader demands they keep the genies of all the children, even when they are of age, so that they have ammo for whatever is coming. How do you react to that? Because they all seem very upset.
Well, no, it's again like it's you're living in the world where the biggest piece of ammunition, your nuclear warhead, is the genie. So,
Mhm.
and they know El Futuro is not on the attack. They're playing defense. I mean, the name of their town is El Futuro, the future.
Right.
They're a it seems like they're the progressive minded ones, even though the way they conduct business, the idea that they lock up the genies the way they do, and now they're considering just taking their genies away because what do they look at it is protection, right?
Yeah.
Because what do they have to make sure? They have to make sure that this future is secure for them, for their families. It reminds, I mean, this whole thing is to me very reminiscent of just how different nations in this world have developed, right? And not in this world, in our world, in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you got the imperialistic mindset of the Idea Man. You've got what looks like surface level communism, kind of socialism going on with El Futuro. You've got this super aristocratic elitist society with the lawyers.
Yeah.
Fun City is a bohemian's dream. You
Yeah.
know, it's the artsy fartsy place. It's I guess it's the Paris maybe
Yeah. I
of
was
the
about to say,
world.
yeah, Paris.
You know, so it's all a matter of how they develop, and within that city or town's way of life, this is what they deem to be the correct way to do things.
Yeah.
So with them, they're
And
just like,
it's
okay,
gotten them this far. So what's to say in a world where the numbers is always constantly dwindling? Who's to argue? You know, I mean, look, it got us
right.
this far.
Well, everybody's dying, we're thriving, so we're doing something right.
Yeah.
So here they look at it like we got to just get our bullets together because something's coming, and
Yeah.
he's not wrong.
No,
He's
not
not
at all.
wrong at all.
Um, dun, dun, dun. It's year 23 and Hope's Hollow is under attack by the Exactitude, which are the lawyers. Um, Idea Man manages to beat them, but starts to run out of genies. It's year 25 and in Fun
Well,
City, and
see,
we are,
what I liked about that attack though was it's an invisible attack, and it
yeah,
goes to show how much they know is coming at them because he only knows he's being attacked because his genies start dying
they're
or they start
canceling out.
wishing
Yeah,
because they're canceling out because he's already pre-wished certain things where it's like, okay, if this happens, then you go into effect. If this wish comes against me, then you go into effect,
yeah,
and his wishes just start fading away. And what I like is to show you how the genies don't like him as they're fading away. They're like giving him the finger. They're
yeah.
cursing him out. They're like, "Yeah, screw you, man.
Cause
This is great."
and you were just talking about the voluntary nature of them. At one point, he asked them if they have as many genies as he does, and they say, "We know, but we're not going to tell you." They
Right.
say you've earned this, like you've earned this fear or whatever that's coming with this. So it shows that they do have autonomy in that respect. It's not like they have to answer their masters or they don't. It's all vibes based with the
Yeah,
genies.
that's it. Like we ain't feeling you, so suck it. You know, you're an ass. It's great. It's great.
It's year 25 in Fun City, and we are witness to a funeral pyre for Brian of the Bada Bangs. It seems Alex and Daisy have become a romantic couple, which is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Like the fact that all came full circle. It's like, man, you made me do all that, girl. You made me do all that from when I asked you to help me with the van 800 years ago, whatever. I would have been over it,
25
bro.
years later. 25 years later. Woohoo!
You know what
Finally
I'm
got my
saying?
girl.
Golly. The two say their teary goodbyes to their former bandmate as the fire roars. It's year 26 in El Futuro when Betty and the other young adults rebel and take their genies with them. As they march away in protest, the Idea Man attacks and Betty's parents are fatally injured. Before anything can happen to Betty, Robbie comes to his senses, grabs the Idea Man, and throws him into the carnivorous moon. Lei Feng's last wish is to ensure her daughter's safety, so she is the only member of her family that survives this. Robbie befriends her and promises to keep her safe. At year 45, Alex dies of old age. Daisy gets the genie for herself, promising not to waste a wish. I felt like I went over a lot, so let's stop there.
Yeah, things,
Yeah,
but you did, but things happen very fast at this point because we're now jumping to like that 80-year point.
yeah,
And so things are happening fast. But to go back real quick, I liked how the idea man dies
yeah.
because uh earlier when his wishes were being canceled out right before that happened, he looked at the moon and was like, I hate the way the moon is because the moon is still a living carnivorous moon. And he's
Right.
like, oh, I would fix it, but I don't want to waste one of my wishes on it. And then it ends up literally biting him in the ass because Robbie throws his ass into the moon and the moon eats him, which I thought was
Yeah.
so poetic, so great.
I
And
thought it was
I
sick that
like
he was trying to make a wish, but his lungs froze over.
right, because he leaves the atmosphere, and the genie even taunts him about it, like, "Oh, you could have made a wish, but you waited too long. Now you can't even
Yeah.
breathe." Oh, and look at that! Now you're in the mouth of the moon. They're just loving it. They're just eating it up. Like, yes, this is what this son of a bitch deserves, you know. And I like the
On
fact that Robbie did it. Like Robbie finally, thanks to his parents dying, like he's now the handcuffs are off because the thing he cared about most are now gone. And not only that, but before they died, or she died, or she faded away, so to speak, she told him like, "Yo, this guy's a douchebag," and he sees it. He says it like the goggles
the
or
blinders, the
the
blinders fell
blinders
from
are
his
off.
eyes.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like, oh yeah, this is not a good person. I
He
am not
also
working for.
what also causes the flip is Idea Man tries to rope in Betty and her friends, and something about innocent people being roped into the Idea Man's thing kind of flipped him off. Where he's like, "I'm gonna let you do what you did to me. I was 12 when I showed up for you, and you did all this shit to me. I'm not letting you do this to anybody else." So I thought that was interesting. Upon rereading, I realized that yes, the moon is a carnivorous being because his refreshing wish only impacted Earth. When he did the wish to make things go back to the way they were before G Day, that's why the moon is still a carnivorous being
Oh,
because
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
only did
yeah.
it to Earth. Because I kept thinking, like, wait a minute, I thought we went back to why was it? Oh yeah, yeah,
It was only the planet. Oh, makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't
So
slip that in the wording.
yeah. So it is a fine print, baby. It's always
That's
a fine
it.
print.
No. Hey.
um. So yep. Okay. At age 45, Alex dies of old age, and Daisy, I guess the thing. In year 80, Robbie dies decades after founding Sun's Rest. And what's interesting is that, like, this is the art of comics. None of this is exposited. It says that he died, that you can see him, and he's dead, and the location is called Sun's Rest.
Right.
And you go, okay, you put two and two together because he promised you to keep everyone safe. So boom. Not only did he create a safe space for Betty, but for others as well. Betty decides, with Robbie gone, as a child who has only ever lived in Havens, she will explore the world that she never really got to see. So we're getting to the final moments of the end of this story. Everyone is dying
And you can see
peacefully for the most part.
yeah, they're dying peacefully. She's older, much older. You can tell she's a much older woman. Daisy's a much older woman at this point. Robbie's dead.
Yep,
And
Alex
you're
is
just wondering,
dead.
like,
Brian is
okay,
dead.
what's gonna happen with everybody else now? Like, what characters are we gonna be left with?
Right.
Whose story is gonna be told now? Because now, if we go from 80 years, the next step is 8 centuries.
Yeah.
Who are we dealing with next?
100%. And like the fact that Betty is excited to explore the world means there is a world to explore. Like there's still things out there, and what does that mean? So a final chapter begins with a flashback to the beginning of this universe where the genie who will become Will Williams talks to another genie about being sent down to Earth. He lands and experiences life as a human, getting into all the debauchery and hedonism he can before getting bored of it because he can't die. He's basically waiting out his time until the next G-Day. So with all this time on his hands, he experiences romance, religion, and even comes up with a plan come G-Day. But realizing how much time he wasted, he figured it was his job to do some population control to slow down G-Day. So he's simultaneously responsible for some of the worst plagues in human history, as well as some of the worst war atrocities in human history. As he becomes a murderous warlord. After he was assassinated, he works on self-improvement and learns skills, as any human does, with practice and he ends up finding great joy in it. He becomes a poet, he becomes an author, he becomes a painter, etc., and so forth. He eventually went on to start many families, hoping to experience love as a human too. After all his children died, he decided that he was placed on Earth to stand vigil and watch the events unfold until G-Day. So he did the one thing you can do if that's exactly what you want to do. If people watch, he opened the bar. And that bar would eventually, after many, many years, become Lampwick. We find out that he's telling the story to Daisy, who showed up at this bar 7 years after G-Day. She tells Williams how she explored the world, and it turns out Alex's wish gave her unintended immortality. I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yeah, it was just a convenient after effect of them sharing that wish. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
Oh, I definitely didn't mind it, but I didn't understand. I was like, okay,
yeah,
it is what it is.
I think it was just like, well, because they made that triple wish, and it's just what happened. Because I mean, the same thing happens to Betty. She gets immortality because of the armor. The armor keeps her alive, and so
it protects her as her father intended.
Right. So they end up being 700 plus years old each.
What do you think about this? Williams lays things out as he sees it. In his mind, humanity will never make the perfect wish because we never see ourselves as having enough.
No, right. I like the way he explains it, and thus the way Soule explains it, in that we're this bucket that constantly needs to be refilled.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of true. It's kind of true. I mean, just look around. Just look around. How often do you hear of people being truly satisfied? Right? You get one thing, and then it's kind of, what's the next thing? And what's the next thing?
Then you get comparison. Why do they have something nicer? How do I get that?
Exactly.
And now I have something nicer. I want the best one now, so I don't never have to get anything nicer. And then you just,
And it's not just at our level. I mean, look around. Right? You get these people who, you get athletes and superstars and all these people making millions, and it's a rare day that you see them making less money. Like, you know what, I'm done. Or they're doing less things. No, it's that
a want for more.
It's just waka. Gotta keep eating. Gotta keep, and it's you don't really hear many stories of people being satisfied. And even if they are, say, satisfied with actual things, but tangible things.
Yeah.
You're still looking for that other fulfillment. Oh, I want a new experience, or I want to have this level of mindset. So it's a rare person that goes, I'm content where I'm at, and if I stay right here, this is I'm happy to be here. No. It's more like, I need, what's the next thing? And then if you put, in this situation, you put the ability to attain the ultimate thing you seek, you see it leads to pandemonium and population control.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that he knew this about humanity, could have wished that everyone had enough, but didn't feel like it was his role as a genie to do so.
No, because humanity needs to get to that place on its own. Because I think even if he tries to make the wish and successfully does make the wish, they didn't earn it. So because they didn't earn it, they'll find a way to ruin it.
Yeah, so and then we just restart the cycle again. Because that's one of the things said right in the beginning of this book. Will Williamson, when he was still a genie, had asked his other genie, right? When does it stop? Like, when does this, we keep doing this cycle over and over again. And he's like, it's never going to stop. This is just, they're never going to not want. Daisy decides that she's going to stick around for a bit as there aren't too many familiar places or faces left. 100 years later, Betty, wearing her father's armor, shows up to the bar demanding Daisy's wish. Turns out that Betty has become a wish hunter over the centuries, killing people to ensure her wish was the last one. And all roads lead to the Lampwick. The two have a serious talk about being immortal and waiting for the next G-Day. I thought that was interesting. They're like, well, the world is kind of building itself back up. We could just ride this out. And they're like, yeah, but then we'll just get another G-Day, which is true. We'll just get another G-Day, and I'm not living through two of those. So we need to figure this out right now. And I when she said that, I was like, damn, I wouldn't want to live through two of those shits too.
No, just imagine. Being 800, 900 years old and looking out your window and be like, oh my God, here we are again.
Here comes again.
No, thank you.
She realizes that, Betty refuses. Betty realizes that she doesn't deserve her last wish and wishes it away. Daisy has the last wish and her genie transforms into the genie's natural form, almost forming a tree of light. Daisy wishes for love, but not only for her, but for everyone. With the world finally feeling like they are enough, the genie population turns to 0, preventing G-Day from ever happening again, is my interpretation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they finally wished the perfect wish, which was, it was a little
saccharine,
sweet.
A little sweet.
A little
sweet.
But it, when you put it in those, and it's so funny to hear because like it's such a perfect little wish, unlike those perfectly long monologue wishes the idea man used to have to give. Hers is, I wish everyone would love and be loved the way they love.
Right.
So in other words, hopefully everybody's just taking care of one another and there's none of this violence on everybody. There's none of this hate and one-upmanship. It's just a world where everyone's taking care of each other. And it seems it's on paper or in a comic book. It sounds like, that should be the way the world is. And unfortunately, if you know your history, a lot of people who've said things like these things don't usually last on this planet.
Yeah.
So it's bittersweet because it's like, man, it seems so simple.
Right.
But we can't get it right. We can't get it right. Maybe one day.
And it's also one of those things where it's like, I do wonder how complicated, like how much do we complicate it? It is complicated, but how much do we complicate it? And then thus, like I always heard that in other countries, like in Japan, like they send you a like flyer that's like, hey, did anything change on your taxes? And you're like, no. And then they just do your taxes. Like it's not like they have all your information, so they just re-enter it in and it's all said and done. I've heard that things are complicated with taxes in this country because the tax preparation business is a very lucrative one, and thus people would lose their jobs if taxes were made easy and simple for you to just file. And what a weird, it's like how much of this perfect quote unquote world are we complicating? Like, is it complicated because it is complicated? Like we really can't figure out the math, or because we're adding factors and variables that don't really need to be there? I wish I knew.
No, I mean, I look at something as simple as money, right? We're so used to the idea that you need money to buy things and you need to acquire money by doing things so you can buy things so we can exchange this really worthless paper with each other so I can get these things. Why do we allow that to exist?
It's a good question.
It's like, okay, why don't we exist in a world where it's like, okay, I'm doing something, and because I'm doing that provides me with my home and with my bills paid.
Yeah.
Why do I have to acquire this green paper to then hand it over to someone else to pay for these things so I can like justify my existence?
There's some people who get to be happier because they have the most green paper.
Right.
And maybe they were born and their parents had the most green paper, so now they have the most green paper.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is, you know. That yeah, I think I the idea of debt, right? Something else we've also created, interest,
Right.
something else we've also created. Like at what point do we just complicate things for each other for the sake of running towards what? And you know, that bucket with the whole analogy, usually the other part of that analogy is that that hole can be filled, but we're filling it with the wrong things. And
Right.
thus it will never, you know, we think it will never be filled, but it's like if all yeah, if it's one of those things where it's like, right now I'm busting my butt working and doing comic book click, you're working doing comic book click.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if it was like, you know, and we're getting like we could both use more money to survive, to live and to survive. Imagine if our bosses was like, you know what, we like you and we like you working for us enough that we want you to give you as much money as you think it takes to survive. That sounds like a crazy notion, but holy
Right.
hell, wouldn't the world work better that way? Wouldn't I come in happier every morning if I didn't have to worry about my bills, if I didn't have to worry about like, oh, I got to repair this on the car, or I have to pay for this wedding or this flight, or, you know, X, Y, and Z. The world can be better if we are all on the same page, if we all have the same dream, hopes, and wish. The thing is, it's just been too much time has been spent separating that. I don't know. I mean, obviously not until G Day can we get here, but I do love the message. I do like the sentiment, you know, maybe not across the world, but maybe in your haven, right? Make sure everyone in your haven feels enough, feels loved, you know?
No, I mean, right. I mean, just think how much uh nonsense would have been averted had someone in those first 8 seconds had this revelation. Like, oh wait, if I can just make this the entire world, everybody just takes care of one another. It's like you don't go
Well,
through all this nonsense.
and it's poetry in the sense that the, you know, as far as like stanzas rhyming and stuff, right? It's Daisy who makes the
Right.
wish, and she
Mhm.
lost her wish, selfishly wishing to herself only be loved, particularly by the one person she chose to be loved by, and that wish was null, void, you know.
Gone.
And she ends up being the one to make sure everyone is loved, you know. And maybe that's the only wish truly worth having.
Yeah. No, I
But
mean
speak,
this was a great book. It was even better the second time around, and then it made me even go back and just kind of quickly go through it a third time because I was just like how you said, you know, you in going through it the second time, you realize how many things you missed, and then in going through it the third time, just like flipping through it again, like, oh wow, look at this genie,
yeah,
look at this guy, like man, look how many word bubbles are here, and look how much ideas are being thrown on this page. It's a great story. It's something you can revisit constantly, and I do hope it gets adapted into some other medium because this is to me this is a story that should be told in other ways. That way, more people can experience it.
yeah. And while there's a bunch of different ideas and a bunch of different points of dialogue in this, there's also so many things that are unsaid. They were just displayed through art, right? Like when I was just talking about the Bada Bang spending their time in that haven, right, where they got to grow as a band and where Brian met his boy. Those are all in Polaroids.
Yes, I was about to say. I was about to talk about that the double page spread of Polaroids, where
They're just in Polaroids, yeah. Like if you
like
look into a scrapbook.
like 40 years of history in like 20 Polaroids, and there's
Yeah,
not a single word of dialogue. All you get are I think like timestamps on the
yeah,
Polaroids. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah. So it's like I said, like I love that you brought this book to me. I'm gonna recommend it to other people. I want to own the trade paperback. Um, I do believe it's going to be adapted to something because I just think it's the kind of message people need to have right now. And yeah, like I said, if you for whatever reason maybe just like the sound of my voice, and come on, if you're here for the sound of B
Mm.
Rogue's voice. But um, but whether or not you like the sounds of our voices, if you truly have not read this comic and it sounds even a little bit interesting to you, pick it up because I don't think I'm doing it justice. It can't be done justice only by the people who created it. You need to look at it in its original art form, and it will wow you. It was enough to garner this conversation, and I think many others as more and more people pick up these books. And now I think it's going to be one of those things where people are like, oh, is it going to be the trailer I see And in the movie theater, sitting next to like my sister, I'm like, that's the, like boom, boom, G Day,
That's
whatever.
right.
And I'm
That's
like,
right.
oh, Alex, put me on. He broke. Let
Let's
me know.
go. No, and I
It's
this
almost
is
like you saw the future.
oh.
Let's leave that right there.
Do I look a little bit like Willie? I look a little bit like Willie, right?
I don't know.
No,
You can look however you want, Mr. Genie.
all right. I love bringing up these kinds of stories because these kinds of stories just don't they in the world of Marvels and DCs, stuff like this sometimes falls through the cracks.
Yeah.
Even though it did get a lot of notoriety, I guarantee if you look up the sales charts, it probably did a fraction of what, like an average X-Men book or a Spider-Man book does or a Batman book. So
Right.
let's show it some love, y'all. Show it some
Yeah,
love
man,
because
for real, because this is the book that made me forget that just last week we all tried to see Madam Web and it was not great. So go ahead and get into some good art, get into some good comics. And we're always talking about whether they're good or bad, the latest and greatest things to come to comic books, comic book media as a part of the Major Issues podcast each and every week. Every single episode is posted at ComicBookClique.com. That's over 300. I think this is episode 320. So that's easily over 640 hours of content of us talking about the latest and greatest things coming from comic book media. We just posted the sneak peek of the new Crow, and we've covered the Crow on there. If you think about it, we've covered it, especially if it's a film that's come out after 2017. We covered it with our first live reactions. So consider going back to our back catalog at comicbookclick.com and checking out some older episodes. You don't have to go just there for the Major Issues podcast, though we're available wherever podcasts are found. Podbean, Stitcher Podcast, Addict, the Apple Podcast app, TuneFind, YouTube, Spotify, and more. And we drop these each and every week on Thursday. But yeah, go to comicbookclick.com and check out every episode of the podcast. You can buy merchandise over there by us. You can go join our Patreon, patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse, where for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, you can help us keep our lights on here and afford the hardware and the software we need to keep providing you guys content free of charge. Like I said, again, even though we try to put up every episode of this podcast on YouTube, we also have a YouTube series, Major Previews, that comes out each month. We're a little bit delayed on March because I did not count how many days we're in this month, but we will get that ironed out, get you guys our March picks, so you guys can be in the know and in the ready. But we want to keep the conversation going about this and about everything that's coming out. So go to facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram at comicbookclick, and use that hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media. I've been to the future where we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media, but I can't tell you how we do it because next thing you know, Dwayne Johnson gets a genie and then we're all gone. Talk about population 0. So make sure that you get on the bandwagon before the bandwagon gets full, that you rate and review us on iTunes, the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters, because we get to find out what you like and what you don't. Just tell a friend to tell a friend about the podcast and just spread the love, man. We got a lot of love for you. Make sure you get some love for us. Thank you guys for all. We got to thank you guys for all of our continued success. Our numbers are growing across the board, and it's all thanks to you guys. Consider our sponsor, Magic Mind. There's a link in our show notes. Consider checking out all of our other stuff at comicbookclick.com. But I think this is enough. I feel like this is enough. My name is George Serrano, aka the Don.
And I am Alex, aka B Rogue. But what will I wish?
Dun, dun, dun. And this has been our 8 Billion Genies recap and review. And remember, whether you're just full of want or have everything you could have ever wanted, whether you see the value in life or you're just along for the ride, I hope all your wishes get granted. So always remember that we are the Clique, and always remember that you, yes, you are worthy.